Dear friends, welcome to East South Asia Alternative TV. Today we are playing chess with Shahriar Kabir, a veteran journalist, filmmaker, writer and above all a lighthouse for secular humanist South Asians. Welcome to our lounge.
Thank you.
You see, during your youth you dedicated your career, spirit, everything to bring back the enclosure and justice for 1971. You have fought the fight of bringing them behind the bar like top leaders like Ghulam Azam and all those Jamaat Islam people who had been collaborators during 1971. So you see, your mission is accomplished in our eyes.
Well, I don't think that our mission is accomplished, because you see, we have to go a long way. We have a long way in front of us. In fact, what we are doing, that is the victim's cry, you know. I am also a victim of the war. Though I have taken part in the Liberation War, I lost my two brothers in the Liberation War, and it was the Al-Badrs, you know, the Pakistan Army's local collaborator. They killed my brothers very brutally. And 3 million, you know, family members of those martyrs, you know, they are crying for justice for the last 40 years. We just echoed them, and we just upholded that cry and tried to create the opinion, you know, public opinion at home and abroad for the trial of the war criminals. Well, the government, you know, led by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, just after the war, they have initiated the trial. But unfortunately, when Bangabandhu was brutally assassinated in August 75, the successive governments, particularly that one headed by General Ziaur Rahman, he stopped this trial process. And since then, those, you know, family members of the victims, they are on the street and crying for justice for the long years. And we initiated the civil society movement in 1992, led by Jahanara Imam, who lost her husband and son in the war, and who was also a very well-known writer, who wrote that, you know, very famous, you know, book on the Liberation War, titled Of Blood and Fire in Bengali. We call it Ekattore Dinguli. So Khushwant Singh, you know, while writing review on this book, he wrote that, I wish if I could ask my friend Zulfikar Ali Bhutto to go through this book, he could have changed his mind. So that was the war of liberation in 1970 that we fought. It was the Pakistan Army that unleashed, you know, this genocide. The army junta headed by President Yahya Khan. So it's basically it's a fight for humanism, fight for justice, fight for peace also. Because if you do not try the perpetrators of the genocide, if you don't try the war criminals or those who committed crimes against humanity, such crimes will repeat again and again. For example, in case of Pakistan, you can see that those generals who led this, you know, who unleashed this genocide to the people of Bangladesh, they were not being tried. Now what's happening in Balochistan, what's happening in other part of Pakistan. So that is very important, you know. The perpetrators of the genocide must be brought to book. Otherwise, you cannot ensure peace, you cannot ensure social justice, even you cannot ensure, you know, socio-economic and political progress of a country.
You and your organization started working from Bangladesh, but now worldwide you have a network. Yes. Will you illuminate us on this?
Well, when we formed this Nirmol Committee, in English we call it Forum for Secular Bangladesh and Trial of the War Criminals of 1971, we thought that number of Bangladeshis, you know, Bengali speaking, you know, citizens of our country, they are living in different, you know, part of the world. And public opinion is very important. You have to create public opinion at home as well as in abroad to convince those other, you know, government also, lawmakers of other countries. You know that during the war of 1971, America and most of the Western powers, they sided with Yahya Khan's army junta. They were completely blind about this genocide. But the new generation, as well as people at that time also, the American people and American media, they, you know, protested this genocide. Even people in Pakistan, you know, there were few people in Pakistan, sane people, who protested, who condemned this genocide, who asked the army junta to stop this genocide, who wanted a political solution, who demanded, trial of Sheikh Mujib's, so-called trial. It should be stopped, and power should be handed over to the elected representatives. So there were same people in Pakistan also. So it is very important, to make them aware, as well as the new generation who know nothing about this genocide. Because since the American and the Western powers were totally blind about this genocide in 1971, it is very important to educate the young generation, particularly those who were born after the war. So that's why, we set up our chapters in different countries. We have many chapters in Europe, in North America, in Asian countries, up to Australia. So we have the native Bengali speaking people, as well as the local, native, intellectuals, lawmakers, and human rights defenders in our movement. And we are also appealing to other countries. It is not a question of only trying the Bangladeshi war crimes. As well as in Australia, we have Armenians with us. So, Armenian genocide was conducted by the Turkish, in the beginning of the last century. And the Armenian people, for the last 1 century, they are crying for justice. And not a single country in the West recognized the genocide of Armenia. So in Australia, we have Armenian friends in our Nirmal committee. So that's why, this, cry for justice became a global phenomenon now. And now you can see all over the world, the trial has started. The war criminals, in Cambodia, in Rwanda,